Jim, that's the end of the male roster, and like I said, we're not going to do the female roster today, but can I hit you with the announcers and referees?
Sure.
The broadcast team, and boy, what a collection of photos this is. Alex Marvez.
Immediately he's gone. I mean, he's a lovely person. He is to wrestling broadcasting what Stephen Hawking is to Olympic pole vaulting.
Alex Abrahantes.
He's back over with Andrade being his spokesperson.
Yeah, I don't know why he's I guess he's one of the Spanish commentators, but he's the only one listed on the broadcast team list. Here's someone we haven't seen in a while who I thought was the most talented backstage interviewer and the best ring announcer they had, Dasha Gonzalez.
I couldn't, if you held a gun to me right now, I couldn't tell you whether she's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't even know what she looks like. I gloss over a lot of those backstage segments.
Excalibur.
He's gone. Well, we're going to put that in the joke category. A nobody who was a professional wrestler because he was one of the people running the show that was friends with the California Raisins, that 20 years later becomes a national television announcer because he used to do VHS in his basement for the pro wrestling chimpanzee crowd. So where's my joke list? Excrement.
It's one of those things where the people that love him, I don't think understand how counterproductive he is to getting people to actually be interested in your show because of the style of commentating beyond the mask. But
nothing, if nothing else, distracting. Markish style of commentary and visually distracting from the product because everybody's going, who the fuck is this guy? Who does he think he was? Why is he wearing a mask?
Jim Ross.
You know, that's a tough one now for me because at one point I'd said, a few weeks back, Tony needs help. Why doesn't he get Jim Ross to intercede in some of these talent relations issues? And if people go, well, Jim Ross at 70 years old or what, he doesn't want to do that. I wasn't saying hire Jim Ross to be the head of talent relations from now until the end of time. I was saying give him enough money to sit down with all the offended parties on your roster and figure out a way to make amends with everybody as best they can and move forward, or figure out who's not going to. JR's experienced at that. And then as I've thought about it, it still may hold true. Why the fuck would he want to? Because 25 years ago, he was mediating the childish, immature issues of guys that were drawing a shit ton of money and making a shit ton of money for everybody. That had still aged him before his time. And now with these children, and most of them don't even know how to fucking draw money or why they might be if they are, and have no concept of the business they're in, I don't think he'd want to do that for any amount of money. And I'm starting to think maybe the same thing is he just tired of watching this endless parade of shit. He was unmotivated on Dynamite, and now they've switched him over to Rampage, which he's the biggest name announcer in the wrestling business currently anywhere, and on a show that the one show on national cable that nobody watches. Does he give a fuck at this point? Is he tired of looking at this shit? So I don't know. Is Ian Riccaboni on the announce roster yet, or do they just bring him in like a hired hand?
No Ian, no Caprice Coleman, no Bobby Cruz.
Okay, well, Ian Riccaboni would be my lead announcer on my flagship show. So I'm going to write him down, even though he's not on there, because it's not my fault that Tony doesn't know how to hire announcers unless he watched them when he was 12. No, we don't need, and Tony Schiavone, interviewer, love it. We've talked about that. What's he doing on commentary? He doesn't even know what's going on in front of him.
Oh, I'm really digging this. This is great. This is great stuff. I'm having a great time here. This is fun.
Because he was away from it for 20 years and he thinks it's all a joke now. He just gets a tickle out of all the stupid shit they do in front of him. But I would keep him as an announcer or as an interviewer and let him interview people. He's done real sports. So who?
Justin Roberts.
God damn, if, he's not a bad ring announcer. If he could gear that goddamn John Moxley and Kenny O'Leary and the stuff down, I'd give him another chance, but boy, howdy.
He'd be off my show right away. What about interviewer Lexi Nair?
I don't know who she is or what she's done or what, so... Well, as a matter of fact, now that I've backed up on, you mentioned Bobby Cruz, who's not on the list, but let's put Bobby Cruz down as a ring announcer, and then we don't need Justin Roberts.
Renee Paquette.
You mean the second coming of Barbara Wawa?
Well, that really is the way some wrestling fans react to the interviewer who asks one question and stands there.
I mean, I assume that she comes with Moxley. And I'm not talking about in a romantic sense. I'm talking about the package of the new contract he just signed. I mean, on her own, from what I've seen, pretty much anybody could do what she's done. So I don't see any reason to hire her, except if it's to get the noted star plumber Moxley.
That's the thing, because the role of the backstage interviewer means really nothing in AEW. We've seen, look, they use Marvez. It's an interchangeable group of people. I think Renee Paquette is an upgrade over Shivani as the interviewer. However, I think Lexi Nair is cheaper than both of them and is just fine at the job. So if we're looking at it in terms of being responsible and doing something that won't take away from anything on the show, I would get rid of, again, they just signed him and not going to, I would get rid of Shivani and Renee Paquette and just use Lexi Nair.
Okay, well, let's do that then, because here's the thing. The ring announcer, it doesn't really make a fuck. So Bobby Cruz, he's elderly like me. But then you have Lexi, a young female backstage interviewer. You have Ian Riccaboni, a young play-by-play guy that's serious about his business, and it does a great job. You get Caprice in there for color, and he's not a spring chicken, but he looks younger than he is, and he's got his own style, and it's not insulting or abrasive. And you got a nice, new, hip-looking commentary team instead of the over-the-hill gang that's either not motivated or just
laughs
disgusted at what they're, or just laughing at everything. Both because Tony thinks it's funny and JR thinks it's ridiculous.
How many matches have degenerated into Excalibur and Tony Schiavone just laughing at what they're watching? The lead commentators on the show just laughing at what they're watching. One more guy on the list you forgot, Taz.
Oh, and Taz is in there as the ex-jock, color analyst who can speak from experience. And then we had already put Mark Henry down because they signed him and we couldn't figure out why we never see him and what the fuck he might. They signed him as an announcer, so let's see what happens.